What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Flex Podcast from the Action Network and Fantasy Labs. I'm your host, Chris Raybon. NFL Week 13 is here. As always, I'm joined by one of the most accurate rankers in the game, the odds maker, Sean Kerner. Sean, happy early Thanksgiving. What's going on?
Happy early Thanksgiving and congrats on the, last time we were recording last week, we didn't have the Fantasy Pros results up yet, but you finished top 3 in week 11 accuracy. I was, measly 6, but we both finished top 10, but you finished top 3. So I feel like our projections are in mid-season form right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, congrats to you, too. And we'll get into those. Go top 5 at each position. Guys we're high and low on. Throw out a prop. But before we do, a reminder that Sean and I have teamed up with DraftKings. And this Thanksgiving only, DraftKings is cooking up an offer for the whole family. New Pick 6 customers get $50 in Pick 6 credits when they play $5 or more on their first picks. And if that's not tasty enough, all customers can opt in to receive a 50% winnings boost for NFL Week 13. Here's how it works. Pick 2 to 6 players of the same sport and choose if they'll have more or less of a stat like touchdowns, passing yards, interceptions for NFL, points, assists, rebounds, and so forth for NBA. You lock in those selections and compete against opponents for a shot at huge cash prizes. Plus, you can opt in for a 50% winnings boost to be used on NFL Week 13 only. Max entry fee and reward varies. Sean, I'm going to go with Cooper Rush, less than 3.5 rushing yards on Thanksgiving. No more than 2 in any of his 3 starts. Where are you going?
You're really going for the Mall Santa
pick
6 here. I love it. Wait till they offer Aiden O'Connell projection. Then you could really have a 3-pack there. I'm going to go with a sack projection here.
Ooh.
I'm going to go with Osa Odighizuwa, more than 0.25 sacks. So if he gets a half sack here, it's going to clear. And he only has 2 sacks on 30 pressures this year. So he's getting a ton of pressure, just not getting the sacks. That a lot of that comes down to luck. So I think he's due for some positive sack regression. And what better matchup to have some positive sack regression than facing Tommy DeVito potentially and the New York Giants. Andrew Thomas is already on IR. As you pointed out before we recorded, it looks like Jermaine Luminor is iffy, maybe even doubtful, just because it is a short week. So this could be an even better matchup for sack potential. So give me Odighizuwa for more than 0.25 sacks here.
Love it. And if y'all love it out there too and want to play, download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code FLEX6. That's code FLEX and the number 6 for new Pick 6 customers to play $5 and get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Plus, opt in to receive a 50% winnings boost for NFL Week 13 only. All right, Sean, let's get into our player projections. Week 13 quarterback. Top 5, who you got?
All right, I got Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, and Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, yeah, I think I'm almost the same order, too. I got Allen, Hurts, Jackson, Daniels, Mahomes. So
we just have Hurts and Jackson flip. That's it.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for that Eagles defense. I just those corners and the rotation on the D line. It could be tough sweating for Lamar, but obviously just playing at an MVP level, so can't go lower than 3 with Lamar. But who you high on?
I'm high on Sam Darnold, as always. He's in my top 10 to open up the week. And once JJ McCarthy went down, I talked up Sam Darnold like pretty much every single one of our pods whenever we discuss quarterbacks, and he's exceeded my expectations this year. He made some really great throws against the Bears. I would be shocked if they just let him air it out even more going forward. He finally has everyone healthy. TJ Hawkinson's back into his full-time role. He looked great last week. Jordan Addison is heating up. So, teams can't just triple team Justin Jefferson and expect to get away with it. So this offense is dangerous right now. Darnold also offers rushing upside, which we covet in fantasy as well. So I realize Arizona has been tougher for quarterbacks in fantasy, especially lately. But still, this team's kind of uncoverable. So still like Darnold here. He opens up inside my top 10. Last I looked, ECR had him QB 19, which seemed too low. So once again, I feel like I'm much higher on Darnold than consensus here.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll go up. I mean, it
Yeah.
should at least. But yeah, Darnold, all the weapons, can run, can throw. And I mean, Arizona teams do like to run on them, but I still think they're beatable on the back end. But they are exceeding expectations to a certain degree.
Mm-hmm.
Buda Baker got that secondary playing kind of above their heads. But yeah, Darnold is my QB 11, so I'm right there, right there with you. I'm high on Caleb Williams this week. He is my QB 18. ECR has him outside the top 20, and this is just a matchup against Detroit where he's probably going to have to throw it around again. And it's now 2 games into Thomas Brown taking over in the offensive coordinator role, and there have been some good things, kind of transpiring here for Caleb. They're targeting DJ Moore on shorter routes near the line of scrimmage, and he came up with a 100-yard game. So Caleb Williams against the Vikings, very tough defense. 32 of 47 for 340, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And shout to my guy, Nick Giffen, the GOAT, luck rankings, all that. 6 rushing attempts for 33 rushing yards. I know we had a little spat on convince me about that. But one thing about Caleb Williams, 2 games under Brown, 9 for 70 rushing and 6 for 33. Quarterback rushing sets are very, very sticky. So, that's why I was high on him rushing last week. And I think that continues here. I think he's just going to run more. It's probably one of the adjustments they, made under Thomas Brown. They're calling more designed runs for him. And I think they're kind of telling him to scramble more when he's, so he doesn't do anything crazy and, just kind of get moving, because I think he was overthinking it earlier in the season, just kind of sitting back in the pocket, running around in circles, getting sacked, throwing bad balls. So it's starting to click a little bit for Caleb. And this is a Lions team that should put up some points on the other side. So this could be a very similar kind of game script to that Minnesota game where he threw 47 times. So like Caleb, I think he's trending up, kind of the quarterback that we were hoping for earlier in the season. I think he was going around QB 12, 13, 14 in that range. So he's kind of trending back up in that direction. Wouldn't be surprised if he has a good game here. He ends up around that range for me next week. All right. Who you low on at quarterback, Sean?
I'm low on Kyler Murray. He opens week as my QB 14. So more of a high end, QB 2 than the QB 1 we're typically expecting from him. But he's putting up some solid passing yardage the past couple of games. He's cleared 265 yards now in back-to-back games. Threw for 285 last week. Probably mainly due to the trailing game script. But his rushing production has really taken a big hit lately. He's only rushed 7 times total over the last 3 games. So that's a concern when it comes to Kyler, because we kind of want, that rushing upside. And this is just a brutal matchup against the Vikings defense. And he's struggled against the blitz this year, and the Vikings love to blitz. But I looked, and he's in the bottom third in nearly every metric I looked at against the blitz. The Vikings do tend to allow a lot of completions and yards because they typically play with the lead most of the time. But this game should be closer. They're only 3.5-point favorites here. So I think, the Cardinals, whether you like it or not, will probably be able to lean on the run a bit more than other teams here. So Kyler, just all the metrics, have him outside my top 15 right now. I don't know. I'm going to ask you, what's up with his rushing? Because he's not scrambling. They're not designing runs. Is that a strategy there? Has it been the matchups? What have you noticed with that?
So I think the thing about Kyler is he has made strides as a pocket passer this year. So he's more in command of the offense. I think he's more decisive. And so it's just leading to less of those plays where he's running around back there and doesn't really know what to do. And then, kind of waiting for somebody to get open. Things are kind of getting out a little quick. That's why you've seen some games where he just doesn't really put up many numbers at all. But, the Cardinals were winning. Now they're kind of on a little slump here. So maybe they kind of go back to it and try to jumpstart him, because it's usually a talking point. Like when they start struggling and he doesn't have rushing production. I think it happened earlier this year, and then he ran for a 50-yard touchdown had it in, what was it, in the Niners game, because the game before that against Washington, he had 1 carry for 3 yards and they lost 42-14. So this could be another situation like that. 2 for 9 against Seattle and they looked pretty listless. But I agree. I've been kind of low on Kyler fantasy wise, just because it's like he's getting better in real football, but it's hurting his fantasy value because,
exactly.
like you said, he's not running as much,
Yeah.
and the Cardinals are kind of picking their spots, throwing the football. Their rushing attack has been on point most of the year until the last couple of games, and the passing touchdowns really haven't been there. And then every once in a while, they'll also take him out on some short yardage for Clayton Tune. So that's he's vultured a touchdown or two over the last in this offense. I don't know if he's vultured one this year, but we have seen in the past that happen too. So just a few, like Kyler's kind of a lot more mid as a fantasy quarterback than you would think, given that he's played pretty decently this year. I'm low on the quarterback that faced Kyler last week, Geno Smith. I know his touchdown rate is going to regress at some point, but we are 12 weeks into the season. Touchdown rate, it takes a lot of pass attempts, a few hundred to start stabilizing, but eventually it does. And Geno's just, not, you can't project him for as many touchdowns as most quarterbacks, I guess, who throw for as many yards as he does. And that's kind of hurting him because it's a lot of empty yardage, and now Seattle's getting better on defense. Everyone's healthy. Their run defense is good. They're healthy in the secondary. So they're not necessarily going to get into as many of these shootouts. And against the Jets, going across the country, Jets play man coverage at a higher rate than league average. And Geno, 25th in adjusted yards per attempt against man, 15th against zone coverage. So this could be another one of these kind of ugly games that leaves you wanting for more for Geno, even if he throws for like 280. I could see him, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and maybe a couple rushing yards. But he's my QB 21. He's QB 18 in consensus. But I'm not really too interested in Geno this week. All right. Prop quarterback, Sean. It's your turn this week. Stroud, by the way, finished QB 14.
Great line.
You got that.
He finished QB 14.
Yeah, it depends on the score. So certain scoring systems even finish as QB like 11 or 12, and then I think I used ESPN. He was 14. So, but yeah, he just squeaked in there. He's trying to give it away. I mean,
that was a great line. Yeah, but not many QBs last week and some really shitty ones. But yeah, great line in hindsight.
All right, what do you got for me?
All right, we're going to have some fun this week. We have to go to Will Levis. I mean, he is really tricky to project right now. I think I have his perfect comp right now. If 2019 Josh Allen and 2019 Jameis Winston had a kid, it'd be 2024 Will Levis. I know your Anthony Richardson comp. That one's great. But yeah, Will Levis, man, I'm like 30 yards. I can go 30 yards either direction with this guy right now. But I'm going to set the line at 210.5. I'm going to split the baby here and go 210.5. Are you going over or under that?
I am going under. I have it around 200, and I'm looking at why, and it looks like in this matchup, I expect Washington to run like more play, like have more time of possession than the Titans. The Titans have, like, Levis has been having a lot of explosive plays, and Tony Pollard as well. So there's like, if he doesn't hit those explosive plays, it could be ugly. And I also think the Titans may be a little bit undervalued in the market. So they could actually have some positive game script. I mean, it's been like 5-6 weeks since the Commanders have been a dominant football team that they were, to open the year in that first month and a half. So I think just a lot of factors kind of nudging away at his passing yardage. But I mean, we gotta book the 80-yard Westbrook-Akine touchdown, and then we have another another 100 and something to play with. But I'll go under. That's a good one. I'm guessing the books will open around like 207 to 210, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I take your point, and they're 3-8. I need to see what their updated like time of possession is on the season with the lead or trailing, but they've actually led a lot more, like more than people realize for a 3-8 team. So if they do get in like a true trailing game script against Washington, he would have to throw a bit more. But just they're kind of an interesting team where they've been playing well, and then they have the lead, and then they blow it late because of his pick six or just knucklehead play. But for a 3-8 team, they've actually been in some more run heavy game scripts than I think people realize. So just a fascinating player and team to project right now. So yeah, I agree. I think the market's going to be around 207. I don't know if this is a prop I'm going to actually bet on, but just was definitely curious where you were. So I'll be on the over here. That's fine.
And another thing that can work to just lower that number by a little, at least in my model, is his scramble rate is up to 7.4%. So when you're scrambling, that means you're not checking it down or throwing it away or whatever, throwing it downfield. So 7.4%, the league average is around 4.5%, 5%. 7.4, that's inching toward like Josh Allen's at 7.6 this year. Lamar Jackson's at 7.7.
He's 2019 Josh Allen without the good, as many good plays.
Right. But so that's kind of an underrated thing that I think, Will Levis has been adding a few rushing yards, which helps his fantasy value and stops him from throwing picks. So, hey, I'm all for it. All right, running back, top 5, week 13. Who you got, Sean?
Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Jonathan Taylor.
I got CMC number 1 this week. I did it last week. You just got him all the way out of your top 5 now. Jeez.
Yeah. Okay. Like I have kind of like 50-50 Brock Purdy, Brandon Allen. Yeah. It's tricky. So I have him outside my top 5 for now.
Yeah, the Bills do give up production to running backs because they are so good in the secondary. But yeah, so I like CMC this week. Mixon number 2, Barkley number 3. That matchup against Baltimore, don't love it. Yeah. I mean, he's Saquon. Might move him up. I had him 1 last week.
He's only going to go for 120.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, I mean, but no, these things kind of fluctuate week to week. It's like Barkley was kind of like, I thought, against the Rams, okay, but this week's a little tougher. I think the whole top 5 is kind of up for grabs right now. It is Tuesday, but CMC, Mixon, Barkley. You're gonna like my number 4. Chase Brown.
Oh my God, yes.
and Alvin Kamara, number 5. But obviously,
Chase Brown.
Check the ranks. This seems like a one that could kind of shift a little bit for me. I'm sure we got all these teams playing, so a lot of variance. But that's my top 5 opening the week. Who are you high on at running back, Sean?
Oh man, Bucky Irving. Opens the week as my RB19. They're at Carolina. This is a great spot for Bucky. And I think he was the rookie I was the highest on heading into the season. And the main reason why I was like very pessimistic about Rachaad White. And, sure enough, he's past White as sort of the lead back in this offense. And everyone's healthy right now. He has been the more efficient back. It's been a kind of annoying 2 to 3 way committee the past few weeks, but we finally saw Bucky actually emerge in the passing game last week. He actually led this backfield with a 59% routes run rate, caught 6 balls for 64 yards. He was a great pass catching back at Oregon. I thought that was his main asset actually heading into the NFL. So it's great to see him finally, becoming that pass catching back I thought he could be. And he's getting, he got a 6-yard touchdown. I think Sean Tucker came in and vultured a 1-yard run from him, but he's been in on goal line. So Bucky's getting all those very important touches in fantasy too. So this is a week where he's inside my top 20, despite everyone being healthy. And again, if Rachaad White were to miss time over the next few weeks, I mean, Bucky is going to be a top 10 back. So he's one of those backs where he's already startable. As kind of an RB2 every week, but he has hidden, injury rushing upside as well if White were to miss time. So I'm really high on Bucky this week and going forward. Another back I'm high on this week specifically is Rico Dowdle. He's just a back that's been trending up. Dalvin Cook and Deuce Vaughn weren't even active last week, so it was just Dowdle and Zeke and Lepke, the fullback, that were active. So Dowdle's like the main lead back, especially on early downs. So this is a matchup where Dallas is actually favored. They're 2.5-point favorites against the Giants here. So they should be able to lean.
No. Dallas got to be more than a field goal by now. They down at
3.5.
Oh, yeah, I was about to say, come on. Like, people, like, the Giants are literally a mess. Like, if it was 2.5, I was going to stop the show and just go bet that.
Well, luckily, and last week I said 5.5. It was like I was seeing a sign that the Packers were actually going to be 5.5-point favorites or something like that. But either way, the Cowboys are favored by a few points here. Let's just put it that way, where that means they're going to be able to lean on Dowdle more than any other week. So love Dowdle's upside this week. The Giants defense has allowed the second most explosive run plays this season. So we might get some, explosive runs from Dowdle. So yeah, he opens up the week despite 0 teams on bye and pretty much everyone healthy. He opens the week as my RB22. So congrats if you've been hanging on to Rico Dowdle, because you got yourself a low end RB2 this week.
Yeah. I mean, hey, if Dallas wins this week, 5-7, they'd be 5-7. The Commanders are in the last wildcard spot at 7-5. Like, don't look now. The Cowboys, after all that,
they should do something crazy like add Daniel Jones, right?
Oh man, no.
Could you imagine?
Like, just no Giant like this. Like, I hope people are finally seeing the disaster that this franchise is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh wait, what? I wonder what they have 9 losses. That means they can win max 8 games? Okay, yeah, because I have their win total under, I think, 6.5. So yeah, I need them to lose a couple more.
Oh.
But yeah, I agree. I'm high on Bucky as well. Although there is a little variance with that. I got to look into that a little more, because him and White kind of split carries, and then they said they want to get Tucker more involved, but the efficiency for Bucky is just off the charts. And then Dowdle, I mean, he's the lead back. Like, Zeke is coming in to pass protect here and there. The only thing with Zeke is sometimes he gets the goal line looks, but I mean, Dowdle's just been piling up the carries, and they've been kind of talking him up as the lead back. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just kind of leave him in at the goal line. 19 carries to Zeke's 3 last week for Dowdle. I am high on Chase Brown. I already talked about it in my top 5. He is the running back 12 in expert consensus. I just can't really put him any lower than top 5 because he's playing every snap. He's not coming off the field. I think Khalil Herbert might have played, a couple of snaps. And we've seen now three games of this, and there's been different backup running backs pretty much for each game, and they just haven't gotten in the field. And Chase Brown, 32 touches, 157 yards against the Raiders, 22 touches, 94 yards against the Ravens, touchdowns in both of those games. And then against a very good Chargers defense, no touchdown, but 27 touches, 143 scrimmage yards. This dude is just, he's like
so good.
Like Joe Mixon and Samaje Perine combined into one. Never coming off the field. No, because did you hear Mixon take some shots at the Bengals coaching staff? He's like, no,
I didn't see it.
Uses me better, even though I feel like he actually played more passing down snaps with the Bengals, but whatever. Chase Brown, 80% of snaps, 87% and 83, but that it's actually higher because the snaps when he's not on the field, they're usually just going empty. So it's not even like he's ceding snaps to other running backs. They just go empty sometimes because you have Joe Burrow and 8 tight ends, and you got your receivers healthy. So Chase Brown is just an upside play every week. I don't care about the defense because he did this again. Baltimore and the Chargers, 2 of the better defenses in the league last couple of weeks. So no worries about facing Pittsburgh. Chase Brown smash. Talk about a league winner.
Yeah, I can't wait to see where we have him ranked next week. There's 6. They play the Cowboys. There's 6 teams on bye, including Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, Jonathan Taylor. So Chase Brown could be, I don't know, inside our top
RB1?
2, 3.
Yeah. Well, or guys, look at Saquon. Where is Saquon?
Saquon is facing the Panthers.
No, sorry. Okay. Saquon number 1.
So, yeah, Saquon's going to be number 1, unfortunately. Too bad that Ravens matchup wasn't next week because
Right.
we could have seen Chase Brown potentially be, the
Hey,
RB1.
if Kenneth Gainwell mixes in too much this week, hey, maybe
Right.
maybe Chase
Yeah,
Brown will be the RB.
exactly.
But yeah, that's where we're at. Chase Brown, don't hesitate. And another guy, Chuba Hubbard. He's my RB6. He's RB21 in consensus. Like Jonathan Brooks, didn't I tell people? Like these injury stashes,
Yeah.
they take forever. Like we just finally got a TJ Hawkinson game. It's week what?
Yeah.
It's week 13. Like when Jonathan Brooks played like 5 snaps, I did absolutely nothing. Doesn't seem like he's going to be very involved. If anything, he didn't even get the Miles Sanders role. Raheem Blackshear was mixing in more than he ever did when Sanders was active. So I continue to have confidence in Hubbard. He is pretty much their best offensive player. That he's the guy they feed when they got to have it. So Chuba Hubbard is not quite Chase Brown in terms of the snaps, but he's getting over 80% of the backfield carries for the past month and a half, and now that there's no Sanders and it's Brooks, a rookie, he's getting even more of the receiving work. So only 56 yards against the Chiefs, but they're a very tough run defense. Got in the end zone, 16 carries, caught a pass. The week before that against the Giants, 28 for 153 and 1. The week before that against the Saints, 15 for 72 and 2. Like these are the kind of stat lines that Chuba Hubbard is going to give you. I think we both were kind of talking him up before the season because of everyone's kind of excited to draft Brooks, shiny new toy. I get it, but Hubbard proven to be the value in this backfield. Who are you low on?
I'm low on 2 guys that I'm actually high on them long term, but for this week specifically, a bit down on them. And the first one is Nick Chubb at Denver. We finally had a more vintage pre-injury Nick Chubb. He saw 20 carries for only 59 yards, but he had 2 touchdowns. But I expected a bigger workload with the weather and a potential leading game script, and both came true. But we've seen him get phased out in these trailing game scripts, which could be the case here, at Denver. So it makes him just a little bit tougher to trust. And again, he only ran for 59 yards. Just the efficiency hasn't been there this year for Chubb. Like we have seen in the past where, we'd always project them for over 5 yards a carry. That's not happening this year. So again, there's so many available running backs this week. No teams are on a bye. So he's my RB30. So more of an RB3 flex option. Certainly play him if you have to. But again, these potential trailing game scripts, he has more downside than people realize with Jerome Ford mixing in more. And the other guy is Tank Bigsby at home against the Texans. You called him out on the waiver pod. I agree. I think if he somehow got dropped in leagues, you got to add him because he could be the Jaguars' lead back the rest of the season. We really don't know. But ETN's fully healthy, so it'll be interesting to see kind of how they divvy out these touches going forward.
Yeah.
With both of them healthy, we'll see if Trevor Lawrence returns this week. I have no idea what's going on with that. But similar to Chubb, he does get a potential hit in trailing game scripts, which could be the case this week against the Texans. This is also just a tough matchup against the Texans as well. So make sure he's not available in any leagues. Kind of stash him as a wait and see mode this week, and he could see double digit carries here, and we'll have more trust in him going forward. But for now, I know he was helping people win back when he was healthy, but that was when ETN was out. So we need to just kind of be careful at this and see how this kind of shakes out this week.
Yeah, it's kind of up in the air because it seemed like Bigsby was getting that lead role, but then ETN got healthy right as Bigsby got injured. So yeah, it's a big question mark. He's just a stash. I'm low on James Conner this week. He's about to drop out of my top 20. He's my RB19 right now. ECR has him in the mid teens against Minnesota. Don't love the matchup. Conner really struggled on the ground last week against a good run defense. So I think this could be another spot where, if he struggles, you talked up Trey Benson on our waiver pod. I think you could see more of Trey Benson. Conner's still going to play in the receiving game. Demercado seems to have not not be getting quite as much work in the receiving game. So it's been Connor. So they've given Benson more early down carries. So I think this is probably the time when we got to start kind of laying off Connor. And you kind of pointed it out. He's always, every single season, he misses a handful of games and he hasn't yet. So if there's any running back, it's kind of likely to get hurt, it's probably him. But, he has kind of the matchup working against him, road underdog, and just not really sure where the efficiency is going to be at, given how much they struggled against the Seahawks last week. I think Connor was held to single digit rushing yards. Let's see, what did he get? Yeah,
I thought there was like
7 carries, 8 yards.
I thought there was a bug in my spreadsheet. I was like, that can't be right. And then I looked, I was like, oh shit. He only ran for 8 yards.
Yeah, and the week before that against the Jets, just 12 for 33. Got a touchdown, but that's just 19 for 41 over his last 2. And it's that time of the year. We always talk about it. Some guys just really healthy and spry, and some guys start to wear down. And Connor, a couple years ago, I mean, he just amazing looking. This year, I mean, he looks fine, but the numbers, the last 2 games, at least kind of got my attention. So I want to kind of be a little conservative with him. Okay, let's go running back prop here. Okay, I got one. Because this guy, I mean, one of the hardest guys to project, I would say, in recent memory. Javonte Williams. Monday night, which means a lot of people out there listening could have a decision if they're, desperate. Hopefully, you don't have to be in this spot, but, I know there's going to be people out there that are like, do I save Javonte and play him on Monday night, or do I start somebody on Thursday or Friday or Sunday? So, oh man, let's go rushing yards, because we know he's kind of a little more consistent in the receiving game. But rushing, first of all, he needs to keep that hand, and then he actually needs to be efficient. So I'm going to set his rushing yardage line at...
Tough one. I don't know why you're doing this to yourself.
33.5.
Ooh. Oh, man. That's about where I would set it. I'm going to go under, and my theory is that you just mentioned it, the hot hand approach, which means 2/3 of this backfield will disappoint. So it's tougher to pick the guy that will go over. So I think he has a lower floor than even we realize, but that is a great line. That's about where I have it. And I'm not sure what happened with Bo Nix rushing upside, but that's another story. But like I'm looking at my projections. That's a good line. Yeah, I'm going to stick with my under. I'll take it.
So Bo Nix, he's been scrambling less as he, kind of matures as a quarterback and, makes his reads. And they have been calling fewer design rush attempts, which again are very sticky. So from weeks 1 through 5, well, let's go 1 through 7, about just under 10% of the designed runs were to Bo Nix. And then from week 8 on, so the last 5 games, that's down to just under 5%, including none last game. So, and then he's only been scrambling. His scramble rate has been, 3% or lower in 4 of the last 5 as well. In the first 8 weeks of the season, 7-8 weeks of the season, he was around 10%. So he's just kind of maturing as a quarterback. And the passing is kind of making up for it with Nix. But let's go.
Oh, I forgot. Like even Marvin Mims is mixing in. So
yeah, he's playing running
potential.
Back. Yep.
Yeah, not, like legit running back, not like jet sweep nonsense stuff. Like legit lining up in the backfield. You have to squint to see who it is, but so like that's just one more person that could potentially get the hot hand.
Yeah, and they're giving Burton like at least 1 short yardage carry every game now. All
right, I'm gonna lock. Are they offering this prop yet? I'm gonna hammer this under now.
Hey, I mean, be careful with the Javonte unders, because the minute
I know
it's like, oh man, 80-yard run, and then he gets hurt after that.
Yeah, well, I had his under 9.5 carries the other week, and he finished with like 1. So so far so good.
That in weeks or months.
But yeah,
Let's see. Yeah, he hasn't cleared three straight games. He won 9 and 8 the last 3 games. I mean,
Yeah, that one.
he has
I would not. That's
one
what I
for
was on his
one,
under.
9 for 59, and then 8 for
Yeah.
-2. He has 2 games. He's a starting running back in 2 of the last 3 games. He's had one or fewer rushing yards.
Unbelievable.
Just unbelievable. I mean, actually, I kind of believe it. I think it was like
Yeah,
one
for
of my
him, it's
guys I was low
believable.
on. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Heading
that
into
is
the
true.
season.
You did say that. Yep.
And before we move on here, a quick announcement. Action Network is running back our annual Black Friday sale, offering our best price of the year on a year-long Action Pro subscription. If you're still on a Pro subscriber, visit actionnetwork.com/Black Friday, and you can get $40 off a year of Pro. Receive instant access to all of the picks and projections from myself, Sean Kerner, Stuckey, and the whole Action Network squad. That's actionnetwork.com/Black Friday for the best price of the year on Action Pro. All right, let's go to wide receiver top 5. Who we got?
Jamar Chase, Puka Nakua, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Nico Collins, and Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, I got Chase, Amon-Ra, Nico, Kupp, Nakua. I'm kind of missed Justin Jefferson. I was getting FOMO. Justin Jefferson not in my top. I feel like he's going to bounce back, so I got to kind of look at that. But it's hard to fade any of these other guys. I mean, Kupp, Nakua, Nico. I mean, these guys are just all so consistent, and Jefferson has been a little mortal lately, but I could see a big bounce back for JJ coming. Who you high on, though?
I'm high on Keenan Allen at Detroit this week. Everyone, thinks the Bears are a disaster right now and they're going to get smoked here by the Lions. But I thought Caleb looked phenomenal at times last week.
Excellent.
He made some really good throws. So I have nothing wrong with Caleb and Keenan Allen starting to come on. After just dealing with injury after injury, it felt like the whole entire first half of the season. I think he was playing through a lot of injuries, but he's looked a lot healthier, a lot better these past couple weeks. And last week especially, he saw 15 targets, 9 catches, 86 yards, and a touchdown. Really reliable weapon for Caleb. So I think he's going to lean on him again this week. And, the Lions defense is more of a pass funnel one anyway. And they tend to allow just a ton of production because they're always playing with the lead. But I just like Keenan's upside here. The Lions have used man coverage at the highest rate.
Yep.
And actually, Keenan has actually only been the only Bears pass catcher with a higher yards per route run against man coverages here. So he actually gets a boost here as well based on the matchup. So he opens the week, as my wide receiver 24, and he and this entire passing attack is definitely trending up for me right now.
Yeah, I mean, Keenan Allen, he beats coverage. That's what he does. He's not what he used to be. And
right.
I think he not clear 50 yards until last week. But a lot of that there was a lot of just like misusage, I think, with Waldron. I mean, he had Keenan running routes I thought like a Dunze should have run. And like, it was just everyone was not in their right role at all. So, Thomas Brown has kind of just corrected some of those easy things to correct. And lo and behold, Keenan Allen more productive. I am high on. We go from a former Charger to a current Charger. Ladd McConkey, Ladidi McConkey, wide receiver 22 in ECR. He's my wide receiver 12. I mean, I'm not trying to fade this dude. I had him maybe like in the mid-teens last week because he was questionable for Monday night, but he played through it. Played 98% of the pass plays and 6 catches. 83 yards. He's their number 1 receiver. Quentin Johnston kind of came back down to earth a little bit. So McConkey's just going to continue to dominate targets, I think. And it's another guy I think we were high on coming into the year, just thought he had a path to be that number 1 receiver as soon as this year. And he's kind of taken that and run away with it. So McConkey is starting to be one of the most consistent wide receivers. He's had maybe 2 bad games this whole year. Last few games, 6 for 83, 6 for 123, 2 for 52, 5 for 64, 6 for 111 and 2, 5 for 46. So, I mean, he's even when he's not having the greatest game, he's still going over 50 or catching at least 5 balls. So high floor, high ceiling receiver in a beatable matchup against the Falcons, who are 27th in DVOA against number 1 receivers. 27th in schedule adjusted receiving yards per game allowed to number one receivers at 77.4 per FTN. So love me some Ladd McConkey this week, as usual. Who are you low on at wide receiver, Sean?
Deebo Samuel, at Buffalo here. His production has really just started to fall off the cliff recently. Last week didn't see a single design rush attempt, which I thought, he might see a higher number of those considering Brock Purdy was out. Why not, just feed Deebo and McCaffrey? They didn't give him a single rush. So he now has, -1 rushing yard over the past 2 weeks. That's not good. And it's not like he's getting a ton of receiving usage either, just 43 receiving yards. Obviously, he's going to take.
He's not beating coverage.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of my next point. Is he's always seemed to struggle whenever Ayuk's out of the lineup, and I think it just he benefits from Ayuk, drawing attention away from the defense and then opening up Deebo. So, plus McCaffrey's back. Those are going to be targets that potentially could have gone to Deebo as well. So. Brock Purdy's in danger of missing again. Could see Brandon Allen under center again this week. The spread is now, hopefully I get this right, I think it's up to like -6.5, -7 right now.
Yep.
So that's a bad sign. That is like 80% chance Purdy's not playing is my takeaway from that. So, he's a low end wide receiver 3, maybe, benchable if Purdy is ruled out. So if you have better options, like you might have to use them this week. It might be scary to have Deebo on your bench, but these past couple of games, and especially if Brandon Allen's back under center, you might have no choice right now.
Yeah, Deebo's been coasting on his 2021 season.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he hasn't looked that great. I mean, since then, he had that 18.2 yards per catch that year, over 1,400 yards receiving, and since then, it's been kind of hit or miss. But this year, yeah, it's been bad. Under 25 yards receiving the last 2 games, and a goose egg when he got hurt. I mean, maybe the pneumonia is still affecting him.
I didn't think
you don't
of
just
that.
recover from that in like a week, right? I mean,
yeah, it has to.
So, but I've just noticed he hasn't really been able to beat coverage, and he's more of like a scheme guy. When the Niners are kind of clicking on offense and everyone else is doing their thing, then you can kind of scheme him up. But when he has to kind of go out there and just beat one-on-one, it's a little bit more hit or miss. So, yeah, I have him at a wide receiver 35, so he's on that fringe for me too. I am low on Terry McLaurin.
Oh, God.
So I think you might have been a week early. I mean, you were almost right. I mean,
12 seconds too early.
I mean, I don't know how they keep doing this. I don't know how they keep doing it, but they do keep doing it. But, that, what was it, an 82-yard touchdown? Not a Hail Mary, but essentially a Hail Mary. He had 4 catches for 20 yards, and that's what he would have finished with if not for that. And his underlying metrics are concerning. His route rate is in the low 80s, sometimes even in the high 70s. So he's not playing every single snap the way some number one receivers do every game. And his target per route rate is down to about 20%, which is for a number one wide receiver, that's kind of like starter level, like entry level. Like the good ones really are in, mid and high 20s. And earlier this year, McLaurin was up at 23, 24, but he's been kind of ticking down. And this Washington offense just hasn't been as consistent. Cliff Kingsbury, one of the criticisms of his offense has been failure to kind of move guys around. And, it's kind of easy to pick up and scheme against as this get more tape on it. And, that seems like it's happening to Washington. I mean, Dallas didn't have a hard time at all. I know they got healthier, but they didn't have a hard time at all stopping Daniels in the pass game on early downs. I mean, how many times did he just scramble out of bounds for like 2 yards? Yeah. So that's also hurting McLaurin, is that because Daniels can scramble, you're not getting, necessarily as many potential, team targets. So low target rate, low route rate, not as many team targets as usual. It's just, there's a lot of variance. He's still got the high ceiling that he could go 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, but the floor is like 4 for 20 or that Eagles game. So yeah, he's my wide receiver 27 this week. He is number 10 in ECR. That's high. And then,
well,
yeah.
Luck with that, man. I tried last week. I really did. This is making a really good case for Quinyon Mitchell's Defensive Player of the Year resume as well, because he's the one that kind of held him to one catch for 10 yards that
Yeah.
1 week. So
Yeah, he's
I
very
think
good.
this is just also a Quinyon Mitchell, positive thing too.
All right, hey, you would never guess, but the Tennessee Titans, number one in schedule adjusted receiving yards per game allowed to number one receivers, 44.6 according to FTN. So, yeah. Yeah, Titans aren't a bad defense. That's another thing. So this could be like just an ugly game. It's not necessarily just like a shred them apart type of game. So yeah, just a lower floor. And Cooper, another guy, Amari Cooper. He is my wide receiver 63. He is wide receiver 38 in consensus. I mean, first of all, the guy he's not completely healthy. He's got a wrist injury. I don't know if he'll be healthy all year. But like, the Bills have a lot of moving parts, and we've seen this with like these guys like Hopkins, Deontay. You can't just pencil him in for 90% route rate. Like, okay, he's just until we see it, we can't just assume it's going to happen. Route rate is another thing very sticky, and Cooper's been in the 50s and 60s. So, Coleman could be back this week for Buffalo. Samuel starting to play well. Hollins, they still love. You got to give Shakir his snaps. So this could be one of those rotations where everyone's in like the 60%, for the rest of the year, because they want to spread it around. So I just don't think you could trust Cooper like we could, when he was getting, 90% as the number one wide receiver. So, there's just a lot of other players I think have higher floors this week. All right. Wide receiver prop, what you got, Sean?
I'm going to go with Jackson Smith-Njigba receiving yards at the Jets. Like I said last week, I think we're watching a fantasy stud, having his true breakout finally. Don't think enough people are noticing it or talking about him. So I'd like to bring him up whenever I can. But my comp for him is Amon-Ra St. Brown if he does hit his ceiling. And they have, if you look at their numbers, they're very similar this year. Amon-Ra has 5 more touchdowns. Obviously, that's extremely important in fantasy. But when it comes to like receptions, receiving yards, JSN is right there with him. So curious to hear where your projection is for him in a tougher matchup, but he does play in the slot, so should still get his here. I'm going to go with 64.5 receiving yards.
Ooh, that's probably gonna put me under. Yep, that puts me under. I am at 57, so I have him 5.3 catches, but averaging just under 11 a catch. So he's one of those guys that he's like a little bit of a lower ADOT and just lower yard per catch kind of guy. So his catches are up, and like 5 catches is a lot of catches, over 5. But yeah, the yardage, I'm still under, and I mean, who knows? Like the Seahawks defense is better, so who knows how the game script is going to go in this one? But he's actually my wide receiver 25 this week. Are you? Is he in your top 20 still?
No, he's my wide receiver 22. Okay, I'm not projecting. I think you were lower on Geno. I'm similar, just not as much passing yards this week. Plus, the Jets might just give up. Who knows? So they might be a little bit more run heavy this week. So I just don't have as much yards to go around. So that's why I am a little bit lower on him this week. But long term, man, I am really high on this guy.
Yeah, no, he looks great out there. But yeah, I mean, he could still be very productive even if he goes under that line, just because he does rack up the catches. All right, tight end, top 5, week 13. Who you got, Sean?
Taysom Hill. Just kidding. I wish. Travis Kelce, Trey McBride, then Taysom Hill, then Evan Ingram, and Brock Bowers.
I got Kelce, Bowers, McBride, Taysom, and a new entrant. It's been a while, Sam Laporta.
Oh, there we go. Welcome back.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he route rate was back up, so feel pretty good about him. Who are you high on at tight end this week?
I'm high on Hunter Henry. Similar to Will Disley, he's not somebody that many people drafted as a tight end one, but he's been offering steady low end tight end one value for a while now. Now has 5 more catches in 5 of the last 6 games. The underlying usage definitely supports it. The Patriots wide receiver rotation has been a mess. I know we were trying to talk about Kendrick Bourne before convinced me. Very murky situation with the wide receivers, but tight end not so much. And even Austin Hooper's doing great too. So like both Patriot tight ends, but Henry's the only one we care about for fantasy. And he only has one touchdown this year. That's got to change. He's going to be one of Drake May's top red zone weapons. So he's going to be due for more touchdown regression going forward. This is also a good matchup against the Colts. They use zone at the highest rate. So Henry gets like a slight boost with that. But yeah, he's my tight end 12 this week. Just been very steady at a very unpredictable and volatile position. So if you've been rolling with Henry, no reason to stop now. He's been so solid and so consistent for quite some time now.
Yeah, he's essentially, kind of their number one receiver because, Douglas doesn't play on he doesn't play on some of the formations, some of the heavier formations. So Henry's always out there. I am high on Jonnu Smith. He is inside my top 10 going up against the Green Bay Packers, who are bottom 3 in DVOA against tight ends. Jonnu has been just looking amazing out there and just putting up numbers each and every week. They're trying to find him in the run game. Two is targeting him. 9 catches, 87 and a tutty last week on 11 targets. Got a rushing attempt as well. The week before that, 6 for 101 and 2 touchdowns on 8 targets. And then a couple solid, 45, 46-yard games a couple weeks before that. So Jonnu Smith, man, he is just stepping it up, and he's looking like a league winner down the stretch. He just looks he's passing the eye test. So love him this week. Wouldn't be afraid to use him at all. Who you low on at tight end?
I'm low on Cole Kmet, and he's somebody I actually took his over 2.5 receptions last week. Cleared it with ease, and it ended with 7 catches. And part of that is the new offensive coordinator Thomas Brown is just using him as like a workhorse tight end. The Gerald Everett situation. He came over to the Bears from Seattle with Shane Waldron. So ever since they fired Shane Waldron, Gerald Everett's not really playing. It's been all Kmet. But his Kmet's target rate has been a concern recently. Last week he did see a ton of targets, but it has been a concerning trend. And this is just a tougher matchup against the Lions, who have been solid against tight ends. And I think a lot of that's due to just they play man coverage at the highest rate. And Kmet's the Bears pass catcher that has seen the biggest drop off in yards per route run against man coverage this year. So I kind of like him long term still. Like he's getting a ton of playing time, but this is a spot where there's just so many good tight ends this week. Like, Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, Laporta, Hawkinson's back, Disley, like all these guys. So he's all the way down to tight end 21. But I think in better matchups and more, weeks, we're going to have a 16 bye week next week. He might be back in, the tight end 1 discussion. But right now he's outside my top 20 as my tight end 21.
Yeah, the Lions they got all those good safeties. Still got linebackers that can cover, even with some injuries. So, yeah, it is a tough matchup. Got to kind of hope for some garbage time or something like that, probably to get him over. I'm low on David Njoku this week a little bit. He is my tight end 8. He's top 5 in ECR, but Denver is a really tough matchup for tight ends as well. They're I think Detroit's number 1 in DVOA and Denver is number 2. And Denver also plays man coverage at a top 5 rate. And Njoku, 16.7 targets per route rate versus man, 19.6 versus zone. But since Jameis took over, he's been targeted under 11% of the time on his routes against man coverage, 20%, nearly double when it's zone coverage. And that's most tight ends are going to be like that because, even a guy as athletic as Njoku, kind of a size speed freak, still you're going to want to find them in zones. Like they're not going to just be out there beating safeties and even linebackers consistently, or that's not the matchup you're going to want to target man coverage. You're going to want to go to your receivers. So the Browns receivers are trending up. I just think this is going to be a tough matchup, low floor spot for Njoku. Obviously you could always save it with a touchdown or a big play, but I don't think he's top 5 floor safe this week. All right, let's close it out with the prop for tight ends. Let's go with got to go Taysom Hill.
Oh God, here we go.
Yep. let's see. Okay. We'll do rush. Let's do rush, pass, rush, and receiving.
Okay, so passing yards are in. All right.
Yep.
Okay.
So just total
All right.
yardage, 51.5.
Ooh, it looked like you're making a 5, so I knew I was going over. I have 63.5.
Okay.
Including the passing yards, like it's really just like the more markets you include, the more likely you're going to catch like an explosive play. So
Very true.
it's just going to be higher, but he is almost impossible to project because he can go way over this. He might go way under this. Who knows? But that's a good line. Just give me the overs. But like the Rams, I think this is a good matchup for him. So I'll happily take the over here.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think 60 is like around his season average, or 60, 61. But yeah, there's so much variance that it's tough to kind of get a projection for him. But yeah, he's a top 5 tight end this week, people. All right, that is going to do it for our NFL Week 13 player projections episode here on the Fantasy Flex. Make sure to subscribe to the Fantasy Flex podcast so you don't miss an episode all season long. FantasyLabs.com is where all of our fantasy football content award-winning rankings are housed. You can use code FLEX40, FLEX40 for $40 off. Sean is on X at _oddsmaker. I'm at Chris Raybonner. We're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Happy Thanksgiving. Let's get this money.